We are in the weekly Torah portion. Please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up. Also, ring the bell and comment, like, to do it, whatever it takes in order to get my classes way up to the top of your YouTube listing. That way, you'll never miss a class. Okay, we're Portion-Bamidbar, and we're starting a brand new book here. Last week we finished Leviticus. Now we start Numbers. Now we're starting Numbers. And, well, his introduction is like this. He says, the book of Bamidbar deals in great measure with the laws and the history of the tabernacle, the Mishkan during Israel's years in the wilderness. Ramban notes striking parallels between the tabernacle as seen through the light of these laws and the revelation at Sinai. These comparisons suggest that the tabernacle and later the temple and the synagogue was to serve as a permanent substitute for the heavenly presence that rested upon the Jews at Sinai. By making the tabernacle central to the nation, not only geographically but conceptually, the people would keep, quote unquote, Mount Sinai always among themselves. Just as they had surrounded the mountain, longing for closeness to Hashem, they would encamp around the tabernacle, symbolizing that their very existence was predicated on their closeness of the Torah. Accordingly, the book contains the commandments to safeguard the tabernacle for the tribes, to be arrayed around it, and the conduct of the Kohanim and the Leviim when it was dismantled and transported. All enhances the glory and prestige of the sanctuary, as illustrated by the parable of sages. A royal palace that is not safeguarded is unlike one that is safeguarded. Now, also the Ramban, he didn't bring this down, but the Ramban also says that the book of Bamidbar is a very time-limited book. In other words, it doesn't have that many mitzvot going on that we really, besides setting up the camps and so on and so forth, but it was really a book about what was happening post-Sinai after the Mishkan is built. And we're seeing real life, the Jewish life as they would go for the 48 years and 40 years altogether in the Midbar. And the Midbar means wilderness versus desert.
Desert is Negev, yeah?
Negev is, right, well, the Negev means south, but that's the name of the desert. The Negev is the name of south, the Negev is the name of the desert, but it also means dry.
So because in other words, that is South Israel. That's
But Midbar is more wilderness, where you could have oasis and everything else. It's also you're surrounded by cities. You're in the Midbar, but if you keep traveling, you're going to sooner or later run into some other country. I mean, it's not a big country to begin with.
Yeah.
Remember, I mean, they weren't in Israel; they were outside of Israel. But it's like I said, they're in the Midbar. That's what they are. But again, I want to make clear that does not mean desert, as like we like to think of the Sahara Desert with what do you call it? No, the trees. No, the trees. The cacti.
It was like in older English translations that they use the word desert like that's I still remember growing up with.
I believe they called it the desert. Desert of Sinai, yes. And what I'm saying is it's not a desert. Again, they had, you would see they had some grazing, so I mean they have flocks. They have things that are going on here. Okay, so now he also gives the introduction. God is going to ask, or command, not ask, but he's going to command Moshe to take a census of the people. So the question is, why does God need to count the people? God knows how many people there are. He knows everything. So why is he doing this? So he says, God commanded Moshe and Aaron with the participation of their tribal leaders to take a tribe-by-tribe census of all males above the age of 20 and when ending at the age of 60. So between 20 and 60, that's who we're taking the census of, which is not a real census, right? A real census means I'm going to count the children, everybody of all ages, because I want to know how many people are living in the town. So I count everybody. So it comes to suddenly, I'm in the Midbar, and Hashem says to Moshe, I want you to count the people. But not everybody, not the women, and not the people under 20, not the people over 60. I want you to count the guys from 20 to 60. And by the way, not all the guys. No. All the tribes but Levi. Levi going to count separately. Okay, so again, it's not a real census in the means that we would have in the the United States of America, where we're including everybody. Okay. Sorry.
It's a census to what's called ascertain the strength of Israel. Yeah.
We're going to find that out. So Rashi comments that because God's love for the Jewish people, he counted them frequently when they left Egypt, after the sin of the golden calf, to see how many people were left after the sinners had died, and now when he rested his presence among them. Nachmanides offers 3 reasons that God wanted them counted. 1, to show the miraculous growth of the nation, which had come to Egypt as a family of only 70 people, but 210 years before, about 210 years before, showed conclusively that Hashem loved them very much. So too did the need to count them after every significant loss of life, to show that every Jew is important to Hashem. There's nobody that's not important. Fine. Number 2, the second reason he gives is each member of the nation had a right to benefit from the personal attention of Moshe and Aaron, and the census was a great opportunity for every Jew to come before the father of the prophets and his brother, the Holy One of God, to tell them his name and to be counted as an individual of personal worth. Surely Moshe and Aaron would bless them and pray for them, and the half shekel contribution would bring them atonement. So I'm going to tell you, it's an interesting thing. When I was talking to people from New York, and the big shows, we're talking about shows that have like 900 and 500 families, whatever it's going to be, they're really big shows. The major complaint that they have is that the rabbi doesn't know them. They're not known by people. When they come, there was one person who the rabbi had just finished giving a speech about you should say hello to the stranger. So these people had been in the synagogue for 5 years. Somebody came over to them and said, "Welcome. How long have you been here?" And the person looked at 5 years. He's been here 5 years. Now you give me a welcome. But that is the problem when you have these mega places.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm sure that in every religion you have that problem. If you have everybody who's there, and nobody is keeping watch or tabs on the new people who walk in, and so on and so forth, so you don't feel like you're worth anything. As a result, by the way, you don't feel the desire to go to the synagogue or wherever you're going to go. Think about how many people like when they don't like, I shouldn't say they like. They appreciate when the rabbi calls them and says, "I haven't seen you for a while." Yeah. I remember I called one person up when I was in, which town was I in? I forget already. I think I must have been my first job. I think it was Bangor. And Moncton. I think it was Moncton. I called, it must have been. So I called up. I said, "Hi, I haven't seen you for a long time." He said, "You haven't seen me at all. I never came." I said, "Certainly I haven't seen you then." And I thought, I didn't know. I was trying to be nice about it. "Oh, can I come and visit you?" "Yeah, you can do what you want, but I'm not going to come to the show. Leave me alone." But that sort of thing. And the craziest thing is, his name was Esau. I never saw a Jew named Esau.
Whoa.
Never saw that.
What is that kind of name?
Esau.
Esau. Oh, it's Esau.
Esau.
That's
That would be the English. I was like,
parents
why would
had
it?
no clue. His parents had no clue.
I guess they looked in the Bible, they saw the name.
I don't like that name.
Right, Esau. And so it was amazing that, but he acted the part of it. So let me tell you, I don't want to come, But I forget where it was. It must have been one of those places.
What a name to saddle a kid with.
No different than
Brother of Yaakov. It's great.
but Yaakov is
I don't know, but if you just give him the Bible, it's like, ooh, Bible stuff. Oh, the brother of Yaakov sounds good.
right.
Yeah, but what if you call somebody Haman? I mean,
Well, actually, there's a person here whose last name is Haman. They
Jewish?
No.
I knew.
No. But I'm saying they ran
name
for some government office here.
Oh.
And I saw that name. I said, "I'm sure the person may be a very nice person, but I'm sorry, Mrs. Haman, I couldn't vote for her. I said, no, I've been here, done that.
I met somebody in a bowling alley a long time ago. It was a kid. He was a very nice guy. I mean, that wasn't Jewish.
Heyman?
The last name Heyman, same thing.
Yeah.
H-A. I think I don't remember whether it was a Y in it or not.
So here the
Might have
person,
been a Y in it.
here's the person spells with two N's.
Two
So,
what?
Two N's. I think it's two N's, Heyman, with two N's. But
The
German.
we never met the Lens when they were still here said that they
who? The
the
lens?
Lens when they were still here said that they knew of the Lens kids. They knew of someone in Israel whose name was Nimrod.
Nimrod, yeah, that's Nimrod is also one of the big names that's making comeback. Craziness. It's like guys wake up and smell the coffee. You're picking on bad names.
Also, it's an insult. It's called the Nimrod.
That's all in America. It's
Oh, in English, yeah. So that's why it's in Israel.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and the third reason, since the people were about to go directly to Eretz Israel and would have had they not sinned in the episode of the spies, a census was needed to prepare the military campaign and to know how many people were eligible to receive portions of the land. Really, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to know who's going to get the land, so that's a major reason to know how many people you have, and we go on with that. But again, you would think it's strange that you would have to count. That Hashem wouldn't just say, "I'm going to sell the land and go on." But if you want to show that, what?
This third reason, so
Right. So right. So, but even with the third reason, you could still argue that you're going to have a lottery. You're going to pick the families. You're going to go where you're going to go. That's what. Why do I have to know right now? It would be tantamount to when I first came here. If we would have had a census. Okay, we would. Your son-in-law believed that there were 5,000 Jews here. I'd like to know where he got that census from in South Bend, right? But he had a thought that there were 5,000 Jews. Yeah, so everybody else said no.
More like about 2,000.
2,000.
Yeah.
2,000 is the correct number. At least that's what on the coffers. That's what we say. 2,000. And that's counting everybody who says that they're Jewish.
Yeah.
And even those who don't, we're giving, because there's really only, when we had the big list, it was only 1,017 that we were mailing out to. And that was with Chicago, with our mailing list. In our heyday, we only had 1,017.
Wait, but that would be family.
Right. So then you figure, that's why you're figuring 2,000. Because a lot of them were single units. And they were also, again, that included Chicago. So now you reduce that to what you have. You probably have 2,000, 2,500, but not 500, not 5,000. But let's say you took the census, okay? And this is how many family units were we serving, okay? So now what happens is every year you start making that count. Why? To show how the growth. That's what you want to show. That's the first answer. I want to show you the growth. Now, a normal growth would be, let's say I had 50 in the first year, 53 would be a normal growth, 53, 55. If I was suddenly get a bumper crop of 100 families, from 50 to 100, whoa, you're Mashiach, you're the Messiah who's coming to deliver us, because that's not normal, okay? And certainly after 10 years, if you suddenly went from 75 units and you were at 900 units, well, besides being a mega church yourself, you'd have to be, but again, that would be the kindness that Hashem is showing us, because it's abnormal growth. That's the point, it's abnormal growth. A normal place doesn't grow like this. A normal family has 3 to 5 kids, and 5, by the way, is extremely big family today. So normally it would be 2, actually. Normally it's 2 kids. If you're having 3, 4, or 5, so you just went into the government has to support you. If you have more than that, well, you're already in the government. I mean, you just bought everything. So it's those people who have 14, 15 kids. It's just unbelievable. And there are people who do that. We have them in town. They have there was two groups that did it. One was Roman Catholic because they didn't believe in birth control, and you have the Orthodox Jew who doesn't have birth control. So and that's the normal methodologies. Okay, so because of that, there are multiple children and families, as opposed to those who do use birth control, which now you've just limited your pool tremendously. Okay, or we're getting married later, whatever the case is going to be. There's two types of birth control there, but it's but that's what's going on. So normal, again, a normal family will grow at 2 to 3. A normal community will grow at 3 to 5, 2 to 3 families a year, and that's being good. Let's be honest with that. That's being good. Talking about a Jewish community or whatever community you are. If you grow by 2 to 3 families a year, you've done a bang up job. You have, because you're having to move in and making part and become part of that. Even if they're in the community, by the way, to convince them to come to you means they have to pay to join. Well, otherwise, it doesn't remember. So again, that's a lot of that's a lot of kindness when suddenly you're coming out. And then, like I said, the second one, like I said, we can understand because you want personal attention. And then the third one is like we were saying, if you're going to go in, you have to know how many people you're going to give the land to. Okay, fine. So now let's go on. It says, "Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe." So Hashem spoke to Moshe. Where did he speak to Moshe? Bamidbar Sinai, in the desert of Sinai. And that's why Rashi says, from the midst of his love for them, he counted them every hour, which we already read. Okay, then he says, Be'ohel Moed, in the tent of meeting. It was no longer in a global place of Midbar Sinai, but now we're in the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting. And what day was this? On the first day of the second month. We don't have names according to the Torah. Our Hebrew months are month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month, and so on. So
That's like the day of the week.
yes. So that is what it is. We never had, the only time we got months is when we went into the Persian exile, the Persian Babylonian exile, and then we picked up their months. That's such Adar, Nisan, and Kislev, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so though, and we maintain, the question would be why we maintain those months versus the biblical months, and that was to show respect to our people who took us in and took care of us and didn't kill us. So and also respect to the government, just as today we use January, February, March, April.
So that's what they called the lunar month. So they were every had used lunar calendars back then. I take it. Yeah.
So yeah, they're all using lunar. Yeah, right. And we're the only ones who realigned.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. But they were, but so that, but I'm just saying their names, Babylonian, Persian is what we use. But from the Torah, it's not that. So on the first day of the second month, which would be Iyar, Nisan Iyar, okay? We are, not, right now we're in, what am I saying? Nisan. Yeah, Iyar. Yeah, Iyar. So we went Nisan, then we went to Iyar. We're in Sivan already. We're in the third month. Right now we're in the third month.
We just started Sivan, yeah.
Right. Okay. B'shana Hashanit, and the second year, here's the second year of what? The Seitam Eretz Yisrael, from their going out from the land of Egypt. Okay? So even the duck agrees. All right. Lamor, and he said, now, why is it important to know? We have, when does a Jewish year calendar-wise begin? What? Again, which month of the Jewish calendar does the year begin? Which month, not season? Nisan. Okay? So Nisan is when it begins, right? So now it says when they're going out from Egypt, which was the new way of counting. So the second year for that, okay, but was it really the second year? The answer is no. It's only, it could be a month later from the time, right? Because they left. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going, it could mean that, the point is, it's the second year from Nisan, not from Tishrei. How we usually count from Tishrei, we're looking at the years. But here, we're counting from the national calendar. So you have maybe in 6 months, it turns into a year because it just passes the day. It's like when a child is born, December 31st, 2019, and by January 1st, 2020, he's a whole year old, right? Tax-wise.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Tax-wise, it's a whole year old.
Yeah.
So that's how this calendar is working here. Okay, and then it says, so he tells them, okay, so ed rosh call it up in Israel. So I want you to take up or count, lift up, literally lift up the heads of all of the congregation of Ben Israel, mishchotam according to their families, lebeit avatam according to their father's house, b'mizpar shemot with the number of the names, kol zachar every male, the google by their head count. Rashi says, when it says to their families, da minyan, kol sheva, know the amount, the number of value of every time. The beit avotam, if you go according to the patrilineal descent for this, misha aviv meshivet echad, which means that let's say somebody was, the father was from one tribe, the mother from another tribe, you put the child follows the tribe of the father. Okay, so if I have somebody from Reuven and the guy marries a girl from Shimon, so then now the child doesn't have a double portion, doesn't say I'm part of Reuven and Shimon, rather he just gets a portion of Reuven. Okay, so for everything but birth, in other words, religion, I should say, everything but religion, we follow the father, and this is where it comes from. The Google Atom, according to the head count, and what does that mean? According to the, you can't count them because we can't count Jews 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have to use the coinage that they gave, which was the shekel. They have the shekels. So they have the shekels, and they would count up, and they would know how many Jews there were, how many males were there from the age 20 to 60. Okay. So he also brings down here that in number 2 it says in the English, take a census. The literal translation, lift up the head, has 2 possible implications, one positive and one negative. It can mean that the people would be uplifted to an exalted level, or it could mean that their heads would be removed from them, as Yosef used a term when he predicted that Pharaoh's head would be executed here too. The term suggested to the people that if they were worthy, they would be uplifted, but if not, they could suffer greatly. And then it says according to their families. So, like I said, the tribes, according to the tribes, the early census in Exodus had counted the nation as a whole without recognizing separate tribal identities. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky explains why the censuses of Exodus counted the nation as a whole, whereas those of Numbers counted the tribes separately. Until it was established that the central motif in Jewish life is the sanctuary, there was a danger that one's identification with his own tribe would lead to nationalism and factionalism. Once it was established, however, that all tribes looked to the tabernacle as a primary unifying force, the establishment of separate tribal identities would be healthy. Thus, then each tribe would realize that its individual abilities would be developed for the service of Israel's national goal of heavenly service. Then the tribes would be separate only in terms of unique roles that they were to play in realizing their national destiny. So that, yeah.
Wasn't this kind of like not broken entirely because they were able to postpone the whole tragedy, but when the half tribe and the 2 tribes were set to one at the eastern side of the Jordan, and they built their own, I don't know if it was a temple or like an
altar.
And then the rest of the tribes turned out and saw that, and they almost had a civil war over it.
Right. So again, for the viewing audience, so your question is that when the tribes were being settled in the land of Israel, 2.5 tribes decided they want to stay on the side of the other side of the Jordan, whatever you would call that. Okay, East Transjordan, East Jordan, whatever it's going to be called. What?
The Eastern Bank.
Eastern Bank. Okay. The point is they didn't want to cross the Jordan because there was pasture land there, so they didn't want to leave, and they were given permission by Moshe. Okay, Years later, they would end up building an altar. People on the Israeli side thought they were trying to break off from the people, so they went over as a fact-finding mission, and it was explained to them by the people on the other side that God forbid they weren't trying to break off. They didn't want the people in Israel, to forget that they were also part of the same family. So that's why they built it. Okay, and so they averted the civil war because well, it wouldn't be a civil war. They just averted a war because they talked.
Right.
They talked. So what Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky is saying, he's saying exactly that. Once we established the temple or the tabernacle, and that was where we were all facing, and we're all in the wilderness together. So now we could be separated into our tribes,
Right.
so that we could, and we wouldn't have the problem of tribalism or nationalism or factionalism, because we're all looking towards our the center. It's like in your family, everybody has a job. So you're going to do the job, he's going to do the job, and your father will do his job, and so on and so forth. Everybody works together for the common goal, whatever that common goal is.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing it as different. So if, on the other hand, when you guys separate and you get married, and he gets married, and your brother gets married, and your sister is married, okay, so, and everybody's going there, and you're all building up the Ballinger homestead. He woke up with that one, okay? And so and all the wonderful stuff is going on there. So now the question is, as long as you have the same common goal, then you'll be good. But if you decided you're going to put a fence up, so your brother can't walk over without telling you, he's going to say, what's going on? What did I do to you? While we're having this fight, right? That would, so you would try to avoid it and say, no, it's not, I'm not trying to keep you out, I'm trying to keep my flocks in.
Yeah.
Whatever the case is going to be. Okay. But that's really, is that answering your question?
You know, it's like the tabernacle unified them, so they were able to section off
Right.
without having any harm. But as soon as they entered the land of Israel, and the tabernacle, like where did the tabernacle help them in avoiding that? Because they came over and were willing to talk, but the fact that everything started off real quick.
Because you're talking years later. So here, the reason we can separate them now is because they all would be in the same area.
Right.
So by the way, what you're doing is you're backing everybody up. The more we move away from the center, in a demographic and also spiritual sense, the more you move away, the less you're part of the group.
Right.
And the more you have to try to build something for it, which is why if in an Orthodox community, what's the center? What's the true center of the community? The shul. When the shul ceases to become the center of the community, that shul normally will die. And so will the community. Because there's no reason for that anymore. If it goes to periphery, then it doesn't work. Which is, if you look in most communities, and if you look around here, by the way, Torah Center, the beauty of Torah Center, the section of Torah Center where it got planted, the community does surround it. And this place, as a result, logically, if you play by the rules, should grow. Okay? Now, if you, HOC originally used to be, I guess, that area where people were coming around. I'm not sure if it was ever it was always periphery or always at the edge.
On the south side here, you mean?
Yeah,
before they moved?
HOC when they moved. So I'm not sure if that was ever the center. I know people moved up there, but I'm not sure if that was ever the center, as opposed to always periphery.
I don't think it was. I mean,
Right. So that would have been a mistake.
when this area was built out in the 40s and 50s, it was periphery. I mean, it was wilderness out here. If the wilderness, you know?
Right. So I'm just saying that would have been, but that's also a mistake. When you want to build it, you want to build it so that people are going to surround it. And that way, people are always within walking distance.
Oh, so but okay, when the people were moving from near downtown to this end of town,
Right.
So they were no longer associated that closely. I mean, they weren't Shomer Shabbos. So maybe they were driving back. That's the way I got the story. So they
It could be. It could be.
And so I guess that's what the.
But what I'm saying, when they moved the show,
Oh,
they moved
were
it,
following where the people
when they moved
were,
it, so
hoping to
then
get
they
them.
should have done, it's interesting, when the Babbage came to town, when they went to Granger,
Yeah.
what was the first thing that they did? They took a map and made a circle of the Jewish places, and they set themselves in the middle of that.
Okay.
That way
Very well.
people can reach them. And that's the smart thing to do. When you
Right.
want to do that, you want to look where everybody is, and you want to put yourself in the middle of that so that you become the center. You become the center of attraction. That's what you want. And if you think about center of town, if you really have a center of town, a town center where everybody's going, that's when the town center is bustling. On the other hand, today, because people don't have centers, they have these wonderful computers, which you just go on Amazon, go to wherever you want to go, and you never have to leave your home. You don't have to. You literally do not have to leave your home. You can go online. You can go to Amazon. You can go to Walmart. You can go to Kroger. I'm giving everybody advertisement here today. You can go to Walmart. Walmart twice already. You can go to, I think even Martin's has it already, where you can order everything online. You can pay for it online.
They deliver it.
And some places will deliver it for a fee. I think that's Myers. They might as well deliver it for a fee.
You have these delivery services for restaurants now too.
Right.
Including the deli.
That's Grover, what's it called? Cooper, what's the name?
Oh, there's one.
Groupons, Uber, whatever.
Yeah,
Then
there's
you
somebody
never
like
have
that.
to leave your home anymore. It's just watch, and that's it.
And then you have an online job.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, right? And you can even watch me online. You get everything online. It's unbelievable. What else? It's unbelievable.
Your whole life and everything
But that's what I'm
you
saying. If you make that the center, and that was the point of the Torah. If you make the Torah the center, then at that point, since we know what the center is, we know what the goal is, we know what the job is. So now we can become individuals. Now we can break ourselves into the groups because each group has its power and its mission, and we're all going to work together. So you're right, though. When that expands, and we no longer see it that way, so then you're in danger, and that's why the people on the other side of the Jordan, the east side of the Jordan. I hope you're right. I'm never good with directions.
Yeah.
East side of the Jordan were the first ones to fall away. Okay.
So the Mishkan was still there. It just wasn't.
The Mishkan was in right, but it was no longer. It was already standardized,
Right.
And we were no longer. It was in Shiloh
So
or no.
In modern times, is this why people lost their allegiance to being Shomer Shabbos and said, well, we're going to live out there now. And they start, and then, so in other words, they don't feel that need to go to the shul anymore. And maybe they'll drive at first and then they'll stop altogether. And that's why
Correct.
they
Or if you go
lost their membership.
or in the Orthodox world, that's why you have so many shtibach that grew up.
Yeah, so you move.
Shtibach is a small place that
started in a house.
You start a house,
a basement.
and so that's what you do, and you come together Shabbos because it's too far to walk to the synagogue, whatever. What that does, they call that the stabilization of America, where you no longer have these gigantic buildings that are a drain on everybody's financial pockets, the financial situation, and so you just make your own little place in your basement, whatever you're going to do, and everybody's happy because. During the week, you all will go to whatever shul they want because you're driving, so it doesn't really matter. But you're right, though. That's part of the problem. That the more we expand out, the less connection we have to that place, to the synagogue, and more than that, the more the community grows, the less connection you have because people don't know each other anymore. The real beauty of this community is. When there's a simcha, or a tragedy, sadly, we do rally around that. I mean, when a baby is born, regardless of how late it is, we all get out of our comfortable chairs, no matter how cold or hot, if it's raining or not. You go to the house for the Shalom Zohar. You do. You go to the house. The place is there. You walk in and out. I mean, one person can go in just to say Mazel Tov and just to walk out again, not even eat. And that's really serious nefesh. Okay, but that's what it is. When you have a bris, everybody goes to the bris. Even if you're not going to stay for the meal, you want to still make it for the bris. You want to be part of that. That's a small community like this. And we have only 100 odd families.
Yeah.
So it's still a small community, Orthodox. Okay, it's still a small community. If you go, when you start having New York communities, or LA, or even Chicago, then I doubt that everybody's doing that. I don't think everybody runs to the bris at that point. It's too many, it's too much. You can't do it. But as a result, you're losing that closeness. So now that's why you pick a community.
You know, it seems like it hits me that for decades, the non-Orthodox have been looking for, I'll use the word gimmicks, you know, to get people to remain affiliated, to come in. But the answer is right. It's right in front of their face. If you're not respectful of halacha, if you're not still Shomer Shabbos, you have no reason to. What do you have to tell me? I can get away with anything else right now.
Well, that is the problem. That's why.
And they won't admit that.
But no, they do admit it.
Really?
Yeah, and that's why even the Reform movement, some of, not everybody, but some of the Reform movement, I think Eric Yofi is the one. I think that's the name that they like to throw up. He's saying we have to return to Jewish law, which was a major move back. I was shocked when you hear that. But he was saying we need that tradition. We need that, and the conservatives same thing.
So they finally recognize. I mean,
no, they've always recognized that.
I mean,
The rabbis always knew it. It's the people. Again, you're convincing the people. People are free. They do what they want. So now I have to convince the people that it's worth my time. I'm going to end off on this because I was watching an affiliate. It's early late. I was watching an affiliate marker last night, and I love these guys. Odie. I'll even give Odie credit to. Yeah. If those who are watching 36 minutes into this, go to Odie. Okay. But ODI. But it was a great thing. His gimmick is. He's a rich guy, blah, blah, blah. Okay, he's making videos and he's a rich guy. Okay, good. Okay, everybody's good. But his thing was, why does anybody buy from you? In other words, why does anybody read your blogs? You have to give them value. If you don't give them value, they're not going to come back. That's the same thing for religion. If I can't give you value, if I can't make it worth your while to hit subscribe, hit the bell, whatever you have to do, come to shul. If I can't give you a value, you're not going to do it. Because everybody knows what's in it for me. That's it. And if I can, so I have to give you value. The shuls have to give value. That's why membership is gone for the most part. People don't care about membership. They're saying, what value is it for me? Anytime I want, I can go. You want me to give you a donation for the electricity? Here's $36. Here's $100. Leave me alone. I don't want to play with your own games. I'm only here for what I want. You know, that's, again, we have the barbecue. The value was the meat. The value was the bonfire for some people. The value was whatever it was. Camaraderie. So you're paying for that. You did. By the way, it's also cheap. You're paying $8 for all you could get. I mean, give me a break. And that's even if you only eat corn or potatoes or salad, whatever we're serving. We didn't serve salad this year. Okay. But did we serve salad?
No.
I didn't think so. Okay. We were too much into the meat this year. Okay. But the point is that for $8, that's 4 burgers. I just made money. And a couple of hot dogs. But, you know, again, that's the point. If I give you value, and that's what the Reform and Conservative, they tried to do with their youth groups. They try to give the kids value. With Yisker, they tried to give those people, again, it was all gimmicks. And we also used our gimmicks. But the bottom line is, if I can't give you a value, and that's why the Torah had to be the center. What everybody missed was the Torah, not us, the Orthodox never lost it. The Torah was the centerpiece. And that was the yes or no. That was what we have to do. Fine. At that point, we were giving up for God. That's the ultimate, you know. That's the ultimate.
So they have to accept.
Right. That they didn't want to do. But I'm saying, but they all realize that I have to give something to the customer, and they didn't want to do it for many years. That was a real problem.